what happens in chords? Chords are multiple notes being played together in a way that they sound pleasing to the ear or appropriate to a certain emotion that you're trying to express. Here's where music starts transcending maths and comes into the domain of aesthetics and art. What are chords? Chords are multiple notes played together following the rules of harmony that we uncovered in the previous module. That's about it. When I told you the fundamental harmony was the octave, what did I mean? I meant that you discovered this note using this note, and that is why you can play these two notes together and it will sound pleasing to the ear. Why? Why do they sound pleasing? I had told you before that waves being superimposed upon each other. But there is a really simple mathematical rule that you can follow to simplify this and to be able to know whether two notes might sound good together. You know the 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x laws, correct? All right. You also know the laws which brings a note down to the previous octave. Great. Play two notes together. What do you get? In physics, there is a term called the beat frequency. Why? Because when two waves are played together, they form a resultant superimposed wave that looks something like this. These are diminishing, amplifying amplitudes, actually, volumes in a certain frequency. The frequency in which this volume goes up and down, up and down, up and down, that is the beat frequency. The higher the beat frequency, the more pleasing it sounds. Why? Because the higher the beat frequency, that means it is closer to the original frequencies that were being played together. And that is why the higher the beat frequency, the more pleasing the harmony. A basic mathematical law. That is why the octaves sound brilliantly, harmonic together, because 100, 200, 400, 800. What is the beat frequency of 100 and 200? Beat frequency is basically the difference of the two. It's 100. That is the best HCF that you can get of 100 and 200 is 100 itself. What about 200 and 400? The same. What about 400 and 800? The same. And as you go higher, the beat frequency increases. Right? 100 and 200, the beat frequency is 100 Hertz. 200 and 400, the beat frequency is 200 Hertz. And so on and so forth. And it will sound pleasing. That is why this is the highest HCF that you can get. You cannot get an HCF that is larger than one of the two numbers. Therefore, this is the fundamental harmony that you get, which is also mathematically proven. 100 and 200 Hertz, 100 Hertz beat frequency, the fundamental harmony, the octave. Now we come to the fifth. X and 1.5x. This is called the fifth harmony, the sa-pa harmony, which is used in tanpuras to maintain a scale. Sa and pa are played together to give the skeleton of the scale. These two played together always sound pleasing, always. Why? Because this is the next best harmony. 100 and 150, 1x and 1.5x played together. What is the beat frequency? 50 Hertz. 200 and 300 Hertz. Beat frequency 100 Hertz. And so on and so forth. This is the fifth. The octave, the fifth. And we keep moving on, basically. And people just kept trying to harmonize different notes together, seeing the beat frequency. And that is what gave rise to harmony in the first place. Then we come to the fourth, the ma harmony, which is the fourth played here. So to find the frequency of this, what you do is you take the fifth of this. The ma, the fifth of the ma gives you 2x. Right? So using that, you can find the frequency of these two as well. So suppose it comes out to, let's take a good multiple. All right, let's take 300 and 360 Hertz, for example. Right? So what is the HCF of that? The difference of that, 60. 60 Hertz is the beat frequency. And therefore, these will also sound pleasing. All right. Then we come to the ga, or the third harmony, which is let's say this is like 100 and 125 hertz being played together. What is the beat frequency? 25 hertz. Then we come to the minor third, which is the Komal harmony. This is also kind of third harmony, which is, this is 120 hertz. 100 and 120 hertz gives you the beat frequency of 20 hertz, which is also the HCF of these two. Right? Then we come lower and lower. Then it comes to, now here's where the beat frequency gets a little small enough that you can actually hear the volume fluctuations. If you listen very, very closely, I don't know, it might be hard to listen through the phone, but you'll be able to hear a waxing and waning of volume. And if I take a frequency lower than this also, suppose 100 and 105 hertz, which has a really low beat frequency, and therefore this sounds very dissonant, non-harmonic. But it is also required sometimes. Don't demonize this harmony too soon. Here, I think you might be able to clearly hear the waxing and waning of volumes. I think it's audible enough, right? Yeah, that's the beat frequency. It's so low that now your ear can actually catch it. And it stands apart from the original frequencies. 100 and 105 hertz versus 5 hertz, right? You are able to now figure out the difference. And what does harmony mean? Harmony means a unification so good that you are not able to tell even that there are multiple notes playing, which is what harmony is about. You should not be able to distinguish each note separately, because then your brain will get confused. It's like seeing a cacophonic painting in front of you, or a poem where every word is different and there is no unified meaning, there is no whole. But in music, to find a whole, harmony is essential, right? So if I play a chord together, what does it mean? Now we move on to chords. Here I showed you two notes together, right? What their harmonies mean. Right? And you can easily figure out the harmonic family by experimenting on whatever your instrument is. Or if you only have your voice, you need another partner to, sing with and experience how two different notes together sound. But if you have an instrument, it's easy enough. Play any two notes together and try to figure out how they sound together. That will tell you what the harmony is all about. The octave harmony is basically on the guitar. If you play, the first and the last string together, they are 2 octaves apart. So they sound good together. Right. Now we come to chords. How are chords formed? Chords are formed when you put even more and more notes on top of this note itself. So if 2 notes form a pair, multiple notes form a family, right? And if for the family to be functional, every member of the family has to be in harmony with every other member of the family. Basic concept, all of us can agree and have seen firsthand. So, how do we know that the family is in harmony? Permutations and combinations. In whatever number of notes you are playing, see every pair that is being formed and see if their beat frequencies are harmonic enough. If they are, then no matter how many notes you play together, the family will sound functional. I'm playing 6 notes together and still it does not sound noisy, right? I'll play another set of 6 notes later to show you how it can sound noisy. Right? Very harmonic, very functional, very beautiful. Now I will play something. I apologize for what I'm about to play. All right. All right. Not all the notes are bad. Now this is a very dark, right, unhappy family of sorts, but it has its uses. Sometimes you want to show those stories, right? Sometimes you want to show pain and suffering and darkness and depression. What is this? These are dissonant harmonies. Why? Because if you inspect each and every member together, and see the frequency difference between them, see the harmonic difference between them, you will come up with a number that is not very pleasing. That's exactly what it is. And based on these rules, some standard templates have been formed, which is what minors, majors, added sevenths, minor sevenths, added ninths, diminished, all of these chords are about.
In this lesson, we're going to be learning how to build a chord, how to tell the difference between major and minor, and how to put those chords together to make something that sounds really, really cool. So the first thing is we're just going to be looking at chords in root position today because we want to keep it simple. So what I mean, maybe if you're new to chords, you're like, what is she talking about? To start a chord, we're gonna begin on C. This is C, and to build this triad shape, triad is another word for chord. Just try 3. We're gonna play. This is our goal, but I want you to know how I'm building it. So we're gonna make this shape. So what I have here is called a fifth. A fifth uses 7 half steps. So start here. You're gonna count up. This is your first half step. So we're gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is how you can confirm that you built a fifth, and you can practice that anywhere. Pick a note, boom. Count 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, boom. You've got the fifth. So practice making fifths everywhere because that's where chords begin. That's the shell. And now for the fun part is filling in the middle. So this is a C, an E, and a G, and they're basically 3 notes that are thirds apart, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It sounds really great. We call this a C major chord because it sounds happy. Now what happens if we take this middle note and drop it down just a half step? The mood shifts. Suddenly things have gone a little bit dark and mysterious. And that's because we're playing what's called a minor chord. And this is where a lot of people get confused or overwhelmed because they're struggling to train their ear to hear the difference. So for me, it's really helped to know the formula. So you already know to create the fifth. To create a major chord, start with your bottom note and add another note that is 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps above the root. That gives you a major. To create a minor chord, you lower that by a half step where you just count 1, 2, 3. And that's the minor third. So you can practice this absolutely anywhere on the piano. And something that I found really, really helpful for training my ear, to consider that I'm going to practice contrasting this major C chord with a minor C chord because it's very obvious that there's a difference. It's kind of difficult sometimes to tell the difference between a major and a minor. Some people might have gone, where's the minor? I couldn't hear it. Because we're playing a bunch of different chords. So practice playing play this shape. Do you know if it's major or minor? Count the half steps. 1, 2, 3, minor. You want to make it major, we go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you hear it's like lifting, all of a sudden it's bright and sunny. And then start again. So playing those major minor contrasts based on the same root tone is really helpful. Okay, so now once you have that sorted out, have a little bit of fun. It's super boring to just sit here and go major, minor, major, minor. So play around, this is where things get fun, with some more of those notes. So watch this. 1, 3, 5, I'm playing 1, 5, and 1, so that's the fifth shape we talked about. And then the bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom, middle, top, middle. Let's make it sad now. Now we're going to make it happy. So this creates a little bit more playfulness. Then take it somewhere else, maybe G. Let's start with the minor this time. And then let's make it major, bringing that third tone up. Right? So you can kind of create this hypnotic effect with that left hand. If you know a little bit more about scales, you could play, add in another scale tone. So if this is our G shape, you're going to play G, A, B, flat A, G. And then we're going to go to the major. G, A, B, A, G. So now we're playing with these scale tones that are coloring our sound happy or sad just by making the change of 1 half step. It's just kind of mind-blowing.
Now, when you first start out, when you're first playing guitar, chords are just kind of hand shapes that you learn to move around, and basically you're just memorizing them. Now, one of the best ways to really advance at guitar, and something that's going to be great for your playing, no matter how long you've been playing, is having a fundamental understanding of how these shapes work. Now, there's also a lot of confusion because the naming system can be completely confusing if you don't understand it from a fundamental level, like what's the difference between major chords and minor chords, and how they interact with each other, etc., etc. So what we're going to do is actually put the guitar down, grab a piece of paper and a pen, and talk about the fundamentals of how chords are made. Okay, now I know a lot of you are probably like, man, this is stupid, I just want to play. Well, get over yourself for like 1 minute and pay attention, because this is super important and it's going to make everything you do from here on out so much easier to understand once you just kind of get these basic concepts down. So we're going to start by writing out the notes in the key of C major. Now, if you don't know how to come about these notes, we can talk about that later, but right now we're just going to assume that you know the notes in C major are C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. Okay, so that's it. That's all of C major just written out for you. Now, the rules that apply to this apply to any key. We're just using C because it's not really messy. There aren't any sharps or flats. All whole tones. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to assign each one of these letters a number. So C is going to be 1 because it's what's called the root note of the E scale. D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A 6, B 7, so on and so forth. Alright, so now we want to figure out how these 7 notes combine to make different chords. So let's start with the most important one in the scale, which is going to be C major. Now, it's pretty simple. Any major chord is going to be what's called a triad. Now, the definition of a triad is just a chord with 3 different notes. There's a very precise formula that it goes along with this. So, a C major triad, you just take the first note, the third note, and the 5th note, and combine them. Now, these 3 notes together, C, E, and G, will make a C major chord. Now, there are a lot of different ways that we can combine these. All these different ways are going to be called different voicings, and some voicings you'll probably find more familiar than other, but this is the gist of it. Now, if you kind of notice when you go 1, 3, 5, like that, we're just skipping a note every time. Now, this is actually a really important concept because it will tell you all the other chords in this key. Now, the difference between major and minor, other than, minor chords sound kind of sad, major chords sound a little more happier and uplifting, is that in any key, in any major key, the 1st, 4th, and 5th notes are going to become major chords, and the 2nd, 3rd, and 6th notes are going to become minor chords. Now, what that means is any of these 7 notes, just single pitches all by themselves, have the potential to become a triad chord. Now, the one we haven't talked about is the 7th one, B. This is going to be a diminished triad, which doesn't really sound super pleasing to the ear, but it definitely has its place in music. And like rock and pop, you don't hear it too much, but it's definitely worth talking about. So, the way you find out which chords go with each other, like I said, the 1, 4, and 5 are all going to become major chords, 2, 3, and 6 are all going to become minor. You just do the same thing you did with the C. 1, skip the note, 3, skip the note 5. So if we want to find out what D's chord in the key of C is, we already know that since it's the 2nd one, it's going to be a minor chord. Well, D minor is going to be D, skip 1, F, skip 1, A. E's chord is going to be E, skip 1, G, skip 1, B. So E, G, and B are going to make E minor. F, 4 is a major chord, F, A, all the way back to the beginning, C, F, A, C, that's F major. G major also sounds good with this. G, skip 1, B, skip 1, D. A, 6 is minor, A, C, E. B, this is B diminished, so its chord is going to be B, D, and F. Now, there's a lot of different types of chords, and once you kind of see this as your framework for building them, all the names of the chords are going to make sense. Like for a major 7, all you would do is just add the 7th note from there, and so on. We'll probably do another video discussing that. But basically that's it.